Okay, so we're holding here in the Gemara, Mesechta, Rosh Hashana, Daf Dalet Amud Beis 4b. And we shall attempt to make an order, a recap of the Gemara from where we left off, which was before Sukkot. And it's very appropriate because this entire Gemara is very Yom Tov oriented and mentions Sukkot quite a lot. And to get a smoother understanding of our Gemara, the Rambam, in his introduction to PeZeR Mishnayos and Mishnayos, Yassi Manishma. Hope you could see me.
Boker Tov, Rabbi.
Boker Tov, Veichaya HaChag, Ba Cranberry.
It was great, wonderful.
Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. Listen, it's coming up big days. Haluas Hashem Kol Goyim. After Sukkot, we already won. Saying it's already in the books. It's in the bank.
Yes.
Elsie, thank you for coming, for joining. Toda Rabba.
Thank you very much, Rabbi.
So, I hope everyone could see my video. If not, we'll try redoing it. At least the Gemara, I hope everyone can see on the screen. There's a mitzvah in the Torah called Bal Ta'achir, don't give. When you give a pledge to the Beis HaMikdash, I promise I'm going to give something to the Beis HaMikdash, you have to pay it up on time. Bal Ta'achir, don't do it late. What is late? How late is late? So we had, over here in the Brisa, 7 understandings, 7 opinions of it. Now, the Rambam in the introduction of Mishnayos, describing it, according to the understanding of Rabbi Yasher Ber Soloveitchik, the Rav, when Moshe Rabbeinu explained the Torah from Hashem, he said it over one time to Aaron, a second time to Aaron and his sons, a third time to the elders, and a fourth time to all the Jewish people. Sure, the first time was much deeper, second time was a little simpler. The last time he repeated what he heard from Hashem, he did it in a way that everyone can understand. And then everyone repeated it over and over. And then Moshe Rabbeinu, Rabbeinu means our teacher. How many people in history do we give them a name? Our teacher. Not too many. Moshe Rabbeinu, Yossi, you're part Sephardi, right? Or complete Sephardi?
Yes, Rabbi.
Was Moshe Rabbeinu Ashkenazi or Sephardi?
I would assume Sephardic because, it's there in the Middle East.
So he definitely was Sephardic, but the way we know it is because if he was an Ashkenazi, his last name would have been Rabinowitz. Now we call him Rabbeinu. So Moshe was a teacher. He's a greatest teacher. We call him the teacher of everybody. The only person who was able to teach every single Jewish person. Every Jew came to his class, his Shiur, for 40 years. Now he's teaching. Now imagine when you go to a class, you go to a Shiur. If it's a good class, it's a good Shiur. You really enjoy it. But when you leave, you want to remember, some of the points a person told you. Or you gotta take you gotta pass a certain test. So you're listening to the lecture of the teacher, and you're writing down your notes. But your notes that you write down could be like my notes over here, right? Very shorthand. You write B'kitzur. You go home. Your wife tells you, okay, how was the class today? Class today, there was a Shiur, the class was amazing, unbelievable. Says, okay, can you repeat to me what it said? He said, I wrote down over here. She has a look at your notes. This? You call this notes? You call this You write down while the person is speaking. You write down a few notes, a few words. If it was an important point, you'll put an exclamation mark. But if there's someone else reading it, they won't understand it. You says, "This is such a great class. I gotta understand. This sounds gibberish to me." And really, it takes someone who's at the class to understand what exactly was given over, what was explained. So Moshe Rabbeinu gave the whole Torah. He got from Hashem, and he's giving over, teaching everybody, the Jewish people. And Moshe Rabbeinu was writing down the Torah, and he's writing it down in a way that when you look at the Torah, it's only going to say the minimum that's needed. Because every word in Torah is precious, every word in Torah is full of layers and layers of simple understanding, of explanations, of Kabbalah, of secrets, of halacha. So he's only going to write down in the Torah only a certain amount. And everything else, he gave us a list of column of rules, how to interpret and understand the Torah. 13 rules that we say every day, in the beginning of davening. And including in that is a whole Torah Shabbat Peh, the entire oral Torah, because if you look at the Torah itself, everything in the Torah, of course, has to have a Torah Shabbat Peh. Yet you need the oral Torah because you wouldn't be able to even figure out one mitzvah in the Torah without an oral Torah. It tells you build a sukkah. What is a sukkah? Is it indoors? Is it outdoors? Tall, short? What type of sukkah do I need? It has to have walls that can't move in the wind. All these things have to be taught to us. Sukkah. Esrog. Right? The Torah doesn't say an esrog. It says Pri Eitz Hadar, a beautiful fruit. What is a beautiful fruit? Esrog is of course beautiful, but there's many beautiful fruits out there. And we have to know it means hadar, which stays on a tree the whole year round, which is an esrog, which is beautiful. We wouldn't know this without the oral Torah. So every mitzvah in the Torah needs an oral Torah. Even don't mix meat and milk. Don't cook a goat in its mother's milk. Maybe it means chalav, doesn't mean, how do you know it means chalev? Means milk. Maybe it means chelev, the fat. Don't cook a goat in its mother's fat. How do you know it means milk? So even how to pronounce the word, is it chelev or chalav? You also need an oral tradition. So everything in the Torah, by definition, is an oral tradition. And Moshe Rabbeinu, in the Torah, only puts down the very whatever is necessary for us to learn from the Torah. So therefore, in later generations, based on the rules Moshe Rabbeinu given us, we can have different understandings of the same mitzvah. It's not just that, as we had in this entire Gemara, and we're going to have this 1 time, 10 times, 100 times, every time in Gemara. So if you went to yeshiva your whole life, you're probably used to such a type of back and forth and discussion. But even for those who went to yeshiva, it's always good to recap that when it's not that a Tana and a Meira, someone from the Mishnah, a Brisa, found the pasuk, came up with an opinion, found a verse, I'm basing myself on this pasuk, on this verse. They already received a certain Mesechta, how things are supposed to be done. And now he's finding where in the Torah Moshe Rabbeinu hinted to it. And of course, these are something from the times of the Mishnah. Until that time is when they were allowed to explain psukim, explain verses. And after that time, we are not able to learn halacha based directly off of a pasuk. But again, there's rules, there's discussion. And to start off with an opinion and then find yourself a pasuk, it doesn't work that way. First, it's part of Torah, and then afterwards, a pasuk coming to conclude. You're never going to find, for example, a reform esrog. No one's ever made a mistake and brought an orange to shul on Sukkot yet. You might have opinions. Esrog should be this shape, that shape, big, small, yellow, right? Green, Ashkenaz, Sfard, the Teimani esrogs, which are huge esrogs. But you're never going to have a disagreement. What is an esrog? Or what is a sukkah? So when do you have to pay up your pledge? We had each person learn, each Tanya learns from a different source. Rabbi Shimon says that 3 Yamim Tovim in order, and always starting with Pesach, so sometimes it could be 3 holidays pass by, sometimes 4, some. Rebbe Meir says, and he bases it off the Psukim, which we brought down, Chag HaMatzos, Chag HaShavuos, Chag HaSukkos. It's Torah tells us Shavuos, Pesach, and Sukkos. It starts off with Chag HaMatzos, with Pesach. So you need 3 holidays to pass, and in that order. Starting with Pesach first. Rabbi Meir said that even one holiday, one regel which passed is already, you already have transgressed. Because he says, Ubasa Shama, Vesim Shama, whenever you have an obligation to come, he uses the word Shama, which has a word twice. Over there, bring your pledges to the Beis HaMikdash, your promises. There to the Beis HaMikdash. When you come there, we have the Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov says 2 holidays, because he says, Eile tasul Hashem, this is what you must do to Hashem, bring karbanos on your holidays. So the minimum of multiple days is 2. The Chachamim, the sages say that they agree with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Rabbi Elazar, son of Rabbi Shimon, says it always depends on Sukkos, because we have the pasuk, the same verse says, Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkos, bring your karbanos, and he uses the word Sukkos, although we're in the middle of a sentence about Sukkos. So therefore, he says you always have to bring it on Sukkos. Sukkos is the time to pay up your pledges. If anyone made a pledge on Sukkos to any big good tzedakah, make sure to pay it up. So each one understands a different the words of the pasuk in a different understanding, in a different way, in a different meaning, but each one based on the way that they in general interpret psukim. They interpret it based on the context, interpret it based on the tradition, interpret it based on the literal meaning. Each one explains it in a different way. And if someone brings another pasuk, another verse, which says differently, they say, okay, that's not talking about the halacha of when do you need to pay up your pledge by. That's talking about a different halacha. That whenever you bring a korban, you have to be pure. So let's go through some of this. We'll skim through in order to get back up to where we are up to. And we'll have a beautiful explanation of the Rebbe about some words in the Gemara over here called PeZeR, KeSHeV. And some beautiful explanations from the Alter Rebbe and from Shimshon Rafal Hirsch on these next few things, PeZeR, KeSHeV. So going back and forth in all the opinions, Reb Shimon, Reb Meir, Rabbanan, Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, Rabbi Elazar, Reb Shimon, 5 different opinions. When do you have to pay up your pledge? Reb Shimon says that you have to pay up your pledge to the Beis HaMikdash, a promise, by the next Pesach, after 3 holidays, and Pesach has to be the first of the 3. And Rosh says, Rosh Nemer, Eini tzarech lemer b'chag HaSukkah shv'divrei kasav lemer nemer lemer shezeh acharon. To tell you, the Torah uses the words Chag HaMatzos, Chag HaShavuos, Chag HaSukkos, come to the Beis HaMikdash 3 times on Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot to tell you that Sukkot is always the last of the three. If you have a pledge, you have to do by the last of the three. Remeir, my time, Remeir, he says, you look at what it says. You only in Tishrei, but in a different pasuk, bring your pledges to there when you come there, and he explains that you interpret a meaning. When should you bring your karbanos? When you come. And therefore, the first opportunity that you have to be at the Beis HaMikdash, you have to pay up. You can't be late. Meir says you only get, there's no excuses for being late. Always the first opportunity, you have to do it. Rabbanan and the sages say, hula say, that's coming to, you have a positive obligation to bring it right away. But you haven't transgressed until you haven't transgressed the Avera, the prohibition of the Torah, that don't bring it late until 3 holidays went by. And so Rabbanan means the rabbis is going more on the Tanakama, Rebbe Shimon, Rebbe Lezer ben Yaakov, Rebbe Lezer ben Shimon, who says that it's always best to pay up on time. You make a pledge, don't push it off, do it early. But you don't get a penalty till the due date, and the due date is such and such a time, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Yom Tovim. Rebbe Meir, Rebbe Meir says that whenever the Torah doesn't play around. Torah is black and white. He's not telling you, Torah is not going to tell you, bring it right away, but you're not going to get a penalty till the due date. Torah won't tell you that, according to Rebbe Meir. Rebbe Meir, he says that as soon as the Torah tells you to bring it, Torah is giving you a due date, Torah is giving you a stamp. After this, you're going to accrue interest and have the feds knocking at your door. So Meir, of course, comes from a different viewpoint. Meir, he was so great, everything shined, only godliness. He was so great that no one else was able, halacha is not like him. Whenever you quote something in the name of Meir, halacha is not like him, because he was far above and beyond everyone else, all of his peers, that no one else could properly understand him. But whenever you have something quoted without a name, you should know Rebbe Meir is the one who taught that, and that's halacha. Lezer ben Yaakov says you have 2 holidays to pay up, and he holds my time, and the reason is d'chsiv elatasu Hashem b'mayadechem miyat mayadim shnayim. Back to Parshas Pinchas. These are the karbanis you have to bring to Hashem at the right time. Mayadechem is in your right times, and the minimum of times, minimum is 2. Rabbanan, so Mayadechem means that you need 2 holidays to pay up your pledge, and the other opinions who don't hold of him says that Mayadechem, your holidays comes to teach you that the karbanos which were brought, Sa'ir Chatas, called the sins offering, which was brought for all the Jews, representing all the Jews on Yom Tiv, it was brought on every single Yom Tiv. And just like one Yom Tiv, over here it says that one time it says that the sin offering brought on Yom Tiv atoned for the sin of the Tumas HaMikdash Ukadashav, being impure, coming into the Beis HaMikdash. So every Yom Tiv, that sin offering would atone for the same thing. So Mayadechem is saying that what applies on one, the sin offering of one Yom Tiv, which atones for Tumas HaMikdash Ukadashav, being impure in the Beis HaMikdash, that applied to every Yom Tiv. Blazer B'Reb Shimon, my taima. Now, Blazer B'Reb Shimon, he says that it doesn't have to do with a due date in time. It's not like you have a closing date based on when you gave the pledge, but rather he said there's one date for the year. Taxes are always due on April 15th. Doesn't matter when you opened your business, if you opened it in January, you opened it in March, or you opened it in April. It's always doing April 15th. Right? So he says that when it comes to paying up a pledge to the Beis HaMikdash, you always got to do in the same day, which is Sukkot. No matter when in the year you did it, Sukkot is a time you got to bring your karbanos. What's the reason? In the middle of a pasuk, middle of a paragraph, discussing Sukkot. Sukkot here, your karbanos. Come to the Beis HaMikdash 3 times a year. Matzos, on Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. Repeating Sukkot in order to tell you that Sukkot is the due date. Meir Rebbe ben Yaakov. Hi, b'chag hamatzos, chag hashur, chag hasukkos, my darshu. And the other opinions, what do they learn out of these words? Why repeat the word Sukkos? Why repeat the Pesach and Shavuos for that matter either? Rebbe ben Yaakov says, you mentioned Sukkos, I'll mention the other two. But what do the other opinions learn? Why does the Torah repeat after listing you off all the holidays, and then Sukkot repeats to you Sukkot again, and then Pesach and Shavuos, to teach you that you must pay up your pledges by Sukkot? But other opinions, they say, Mikol Rav Lezer Amar B'Yishua, Amar Rav Lezer Amar Rav Oshia, Minayin Latzer Sheshet Tashlum Kol Shiva. Now, how many days is Pesach? Well, in Israel, Pesach is 7 days. Outside of Israel, Pesach is 8 days. Right? But Pesach is 7 days from the Torah, when in times of the Beis HaMikdash. How long is Sukkot? Well, Sukkot is 7 days, and then you have 1 day of Shmini Atzeres. And nowadays, outside of Eretz Yisrael, we have Simchas Torah as well. How many days is Shavuos? 1 day in times of the Beis HaMikdash. 1 day. And the next day, on Chutz La'aretz, outside of Eretz Yisrael, we have a 2nd day of Shavuos as well. Now, you have to realize people couldn't just get onto an Egged bus, and have a schedule when they're going to be in Yerushalayim, and like in the Egged buses, they whenever it's a busy season or busy route, the laws in Israel are very unique. You're allowed to stuff in people. I think 12 people in the aisle. I think that's a rule. At least when I was there. Maybe it's still like that. Maybe they made it.
Yeah.
How many?
Yeah.
I'm saying maybe now they put it up to 14. I'm not sure. Then going to Yerushalayim was a very big deal. You had to be able to afford either walk by foot. It could take a very long time. The mountains weren't easy to go over, and you're carrying all your things with you. And if you had a donkey, which could make it was even more difficult, or very expensive. Most people couldn't afford it. So if you pledged something, you needed to bring a carbon. And who didn't need to bring a carbon? Everyone, at least one time a year. God forbid they did a transgression on Shabbos without realizing you're bringing carbon chatas. A woman had a baby, you bring a carbon. And then, when you come to the Beis HaMikdash, you had to come 3 times a year, you bring karbanos. In the beginning, people used to bring their own animals, and after realizing that it's so difficult for animals to come, the Beis HaMikdash themselves had a system where you're able to just bring money, buy a token, and then choose from the Beis HaMikdash's animals that they had for sale. You could still bring your own if you wanted, but they did that as a service for everyone. And if you needed to bring the carbon in the Beis HaMikdash, you would wait till you were anyways going. So it would pile up sometimes between Pesach and Sukkah and Shavuos will pile up 7 weeks. Between Shavuos and Sukkot, you have a few more, 3 months, and then between Sukkot and Pesach another 6 or maybe 7 months, depending if it's a leap year. And then you come all together to Yerushalayim, and then you bring all your korbanos at one time. So you imagine millions of Jews, okay, and looking at the numbers in Gemara Pesachim, okay, at 1.2 million korban Pesachs in 1 year, which each one had at least 10 people. So over 12 million people. You can imagine how packed the whole area of Yerushalayim was. And that's near the end of the second Beis HaMikdash, where, it was a very, very big population. So you have a tremendous amount of korbanos being brought. Can you imagine if you have 12 million people, even if you're only bringing, 2 million korbanos from everyone, besides for the korban Pesach and all that, even 1 million is a tremendous amount. And physically, it would be impossible to do it all in one day. And there's a korban everyone had to bring just when you came to the Beis HaMikdash called a korban chagiga, and the second one called shalmei simcha. And Pesach, you have to bring korban Pesach as well. So everyone is bringing at least one, many people 2, and sometimes 3, besides for all your regular korbanos that you had to bring because of the year. You imagine you went to a cemetery, you got to bring a korban. It's to become kosher again. So in order, any nazir, so they would spread it out over 7 days. So Pesach you had 7 days, Sukkot you had 8 days, Shavuos is only 1 day. So therefore, they said that if you didn't manage to bring your korban that you need to bring for Shavuos, or coming up on the first day, you could bring it for the next 7 days. Hence, we don't say Tachanun in the month of Sivan until Yud Beis Sivan, till the 12th of Sivan, even though Shavuos is on Vav. But we don't say Tachanun for 7 days because in the times of the Beis HaMikdash, it was, although not part of the holiday, but it was a continuation of Shavuos. Everyone's, huge amounts of people are in Shavuos. If the news will be playing all day what's going on in Yerushalayim, that's where everything was taking place. It was still a very Yom Tov, very holiday type of atmosphere. And so the Torah is telling us that Shavuos, according to these other opinions, Rabbi Meir, Rebbe ben Yaakov, when the Torah tells us that Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot, it joins them as one, it's coming to teach you that Shavuos will be the same as Pesach, and also, and for sure, the same as Sukkot. That if I did not bring my korban on time on the first day, on Shavuos itself, which I had to bring for Shavuos, I could bring it over the next 7 days. So, to read it inside. Meir Rabbi Lezber Yaakov, hi b'chagamatzes. Yaakov, welcome, shalom aleichem. Thank you for gracing us with your tremendous presence. This year is going to be tremendous brachas, tremendous blessings. And Yaakov halach l'darko, right? That's the end of Sukkot. Everyone says Yaakov went on his journey. We packed up all of our suitcases, the whole month of Tishrei, Rosh Hashana, and Kippur, Sukkot, and Chastara. Everything we need plus more for the year. Now we have to go on the road throughout the rest of the year with the simcha of Sukkot. Someone comes late to. Someone brings in their pledge late to Yerushalayim, to the Beis HaMikdash. And they don't want to be late. It's always a mitzvah to try doing it first, being in the first one. There are 3 groups which will bring a korban Pesach. It's a mitzvah to be in the first one. when it comes to do a mitzvah, there's a reason, try doing it the first. If, like we said, there's in the millions, definitely in the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of karbanos being brought all at one time, so then it was spread out over 7 days, even on Shavuos, which was only 1 day, because you have tashlumin kol shiva. You can make up. Again, it's called making up, not the best way, but the Yom Tov of holiday of Shavuos continues for 7 days, all the way to Yud Beis Sivan. Hence, we don't say Tachanun. Talmud Lomer, and we know this from the Torah, because it states B'chag HaShematzos, B'chag HaShavuos, B'chag HaSukkos, as a verse we've been speaking about for the last while. It says you should come to the Beis HaMikdash 3 times a year. Chag HaMatzot, Chag HaShavuot, Chag HaSukkot, and bring with you a karban. Don't come empty-handed. And the Torah, as we said, it's given us by Moshe Rabbeinu with the rules of interpretation. Moshe Rabbeinu taught us something, and he put everything in a very concise way in the Torah. And it makes a hekesh. The laws of one apply to the other. Just like on Pesach, you have 7 days. That's how long Pesach is. In Chutz La'aretz, we have 8 days. But in the Beis HaMikdash, there were 7 days of Pesach, and you had 7 days to bring a karban. Av Chag HaShavuos, yesh lo tashlumin kol shiva. So too, Shavuos, which is only 1 day, you have another 7 days, or another 6 days, but altogether 7 days to make up. And therefore, by Shavuos, you could bring your karbanos, your gift offering that you had to bring on Shavuos to the Beis HaMikdash. You could bring it throughout the next 6 days. So you have 7 days to do it, just like Pesach. So the question is, someone very astute can ask a question. Let's look at the words of the pasuk, because the Torah tells us Chag HaMatzot v'Chag HaShavuot v'Chag HaSukkot. When you come to the Beis HaMikdash, always bring an offering with you on Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. Pesach, Torah tells us, it's 7 days. Shavuos, it's 1 day, but we could bring a karban for 7 days. Sukkot is how many days? 8 days. Shmini Atzeres. Let's open up here in the next tab just to make it simpler. Sukkot in the Beis HaMikdash, it's 8 days. If I'm anyways, we'll get to that in a moment. If I'm anyways expanding the amount of days I could bring a karban, because, as it says over here in verse 16, 3 times a year all your males shall bring a karban to Hashem on Pesach, on Shavuos, and Sukkot, and do not appear empty-handed, which means you have to bring a karban just when you come to the Beis HaMikdash. You have to bring a gift to Hashem, and that, in turn, that gift of Hashem is the meat that people eat on Yom Tov as well. Why not compare to the other Yom Tov? You have Shavuos is here right in the middle. Beforehand is Chag HaMatzos, the festival of Pesach. Right afterwards is Chag HaSukkos, the festival of Sukkot. Now, since they're next to each other, comparing one to the other, Shavuos, which is 1 day, you could bring the karbanos for longer. And we compared it to Pesach, which you could bring the karban for 7 days. Why not compare it to Sukkot, where you have 8 days of a karbanos? Because Sukkot, you have Shmini Atzeres, the 8th day of the Yom Tov as well. So why compare Shavuos to Pesach, which gives you only 7 days? Compare Shavuos to Sukkot, which gives you 8 days. And I wouldn't mind to so much. Imagine another day without saying Tachanun. You go instead of saying Yud Beis, maybe Yud Gimel. Maybe if you want to be very observant, you don't say Tachanun because the Gemara was thinking maybe not to say Tachanun that day. They said about what they said about Ben Gurion. He didn't say Tachanun also on the 13th. Also Yud Gimel of Sivan. Just in case you compare it to Sukkot. But why compare, if you're making an addition, why compare to to Pesach as opposed to comparing to Sukkot? So the Gemara gives a very concise answer. So the Gemara asks, Lekish l'chag Sukkos. Let's compare Shavuos to Sukkos and say that you're allowed to bring all the karbanos of the holiday, your gift offerings, for 8 days instead of for 7 days, like Pesach. The Gemara answers, Mal halon shmeinav kan shmeina. Just like Sukkot is 8 days, let's say on Shavuos I could bring my extra karbanos for 8 days. Gemara answers, Shmini regal bifnei atzmaihu. He says no. Shmini atzeres is different. It's very different than Sukkot. Shmini Atzeres is its own independent holiday, its own independent Yom Tov. It's not connected to Sukkot, and therefore any obligations you have to bring on Sukkot cannot be done on Shmini Atzeres. It's not called Chag HaSukkos, and you can go to any siddur. Toda. Yaakov. Toda Rabba. Shalosh פעמים בשנה יראה כל זוכרס בני אדון השם אלוקי ישראל. You go to any Shmona Esrei of I resume. If you go to any, Yaakov, welcome back. You take any siddur, right, and you look at the davening, and it says on Yom Tov. So we have, and Hashem, you gave us Chag HaMatzot Hazeh or Chag HaSukkot, and then you have Chag Shmini Atzeres. Shmini Atzeres is its own independent Yom Tov. It's its own independent holiday. And the first answer the Gemara gives is that you cannot make up any obligation on Sukkot. You can't do it on Shmini Atzeres. So the Gemara asks, Eimor damrinan Shmini regel v'nei atzmai, l'inyan PeZeR KeSHeV, l'in tashlum dirar kol, tashlum dirishin hu. So I think just today we're going to go through the idea of PeZeR KeSHeV. And then in Mitzvah Hashem, on Monday, we'll continue with the question and answer a little bit better. What is PeZeR KeSHeV? PeZeR KeSHeV this is from Mesechta Sukkah. And if you look at Rashi over here on the page, you have a very, very long Rashi. Pirush Rashi, PeZeR KeSHeV, you see? Rashi already explained what PeZeR KeSHeV is. It's an abbreviation, it's a Rosh Tevot. It stands for 6 things, what's unique about Shmini Atzeres. How is it different than Sukkot? It's different than, it's the same as Sukkot except for PeZeR KeSHeV. First one is pious. Sorry, let's go back here. Pious, we're coming up to elections in the U.S., but I think in Israel, elections are called a pious, right? So we're coming to election. What? Sure. Kalpi, also, isn't it pious? Maybe pious is a lottery. Pious is the lotto in Israel. Right? So you have in the Beis HaMikdash, you had every day, it's called a pious. Not like the pious. Pious it means it's a Hungarian pronunciation of pious. Pious is a type of lottery. It was done every single morning in the Beis HaMikdash, and it would give out various aspects of the avodah of the different parts of serving in the Beis HaMikdash every single day. So here you have people reenacting what the pious is. Here, you would have one Kohen who's the director, the one in charge in the middle. All the Kohanim of that day would gather in a circle. He would take the turban off one Kohen, the director. You see, he took a turban off one Kohen. Everybody would have to put up 1 or 2 fingers. He would close his eyes. He would choose a random number, a higher number, and then start counting the fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the fingers, and go around and around. So usually be a full circle until number finished, and that will be the first Kohen. And every part of the service of the Beis HaMikdash, every part of the avodah, a different Kohen would receive that avodah. So the word PeZeR KeSHeV, back to the Gemara. PeZeR, it says PeZeR KeSHeV. PeZeR, these are the abbreviations, but the reason why we put it in such a way, we can perhaps these are the halachas that are very unique for Shmini Atzeres. And the reason why we put it in such a way, I'll just bring maybe a short explanation of the Rebbe. I'll get into PeZeR KeSHeV Emir Hashem on Monday, a little more, and a question and answer of the Gemara. PeZeR, in the Torah, PeZeR, it's one of the trup. It goes very, very high. PeZeR. Why is it called the PeZeR? PeZeR means mifuzar meforad, spread out. KeSHeV means hakshiva. Hakshiva means listen.
Listen.
Right? Takshiv. Right? What does that mean? It means listen. In order to listen, takshiv doesn't mean just to listen. It means to pay attention, right? In order to be able to pay attention, meaning to listen, to take to heart some of the things that we learn, we need PeZeR. PeZeR means to remove. PeZeR means to spread out. To not feel yourself so big like a PeZeR, rather spread yourself out. The Alter Rebbe explains in a Maimer talking about Shmini Atzeres, the idea of why in Shmini Atzeres we don't make a bracha ad lulav and esrog, only in Sukkos, because on Shmini Atzeres the sukkah surrounds you, and the lulav and esrog you're bringing inside of you what was surrounding you, which started with Hashana Yom Kippur, and every time you bring the lulav back to your heart, you're bringing the light, the or, the makif, greater than the world, which is too great to connect to you, into yourself. And after 7 days, you already brought it into all your 7 parts of your soul, 7 midos. And now, on Shmini Atzeres, we don't have to shake a lulav and esrog anymore. On Shmini Atzeres, we still eat in the sukkah, but you don't make a bracha. So when you have a bittul, you put yourself aside, you put aside your beautiful house, you put aside everything else. You have a bittul, then you could be KeSHeV, you could receive hakshiv to bring inside all of the lights, all the orot from Sukkot. So that's the idea of PeZeR KeSHeV, and particularly, so Pei is pious. Where is it? Zayin stands for Zman. Zman means the Birchat Shechiyanu. PeZeR KeSHeV. Zayin means Shechiyanu. In the Kiddush of Shmini Atzeres, we make Shechiyanu. It's a new holiday. On the last days of Pesach, we don't make Shechiyanu during Kiddush, or when you light candles, if you're lighting candles, because the seventh day of Pesach is part of Pesach. But on Shmini Atzeres, it's a new Yom Tiv, and therefore we say Zayin is Zman. We say a Shechiyanu. Resh is Regel Bifnei Atzmoi. It's not called Chag HaSukkos, rather it's called Chag Shmini Atzeres. And we don't we don't have to sit in the sukkah in the same way. Like many communities don't sit in the sukkah at all, although we'll get to that soon in the Gemara. Kuf is carbon. It's a different amount of karbanis. Shin in sukkah, shin stands for Shiur. In the Beis HaMikdash, you had. It's hard to imagine, but because this is, I guess, in the Beis HaMikdash from the lesser talked about things. If anyone's a Levi, they're going to be perhaps a singer in the Beis HaMikdash. Shin stands for Shiur. There was a special Shiur, special song, which was sang on Shmini Atzeres, the 8th day of Sukkot, in the Beis HaMikdash. We don't know what it is. There's some later opinions which say that we say Lam Natseach Ala Shminis Mizmor LaDavid, a song for the 8th, but we don't know definitely, at least from the Gemara, which song was sang on Shmini Atzeres by the Levim in the Beis HaMikdash. And Beis is for bracha, the blessing that you would give, that you would make to the king. Blessing you don't give it, that you would give to the king on Sukkot. All right, we'll pause over here. We'll Mr. Hashem continue on Monday with the rest of PeZeR KeSHeV.